got sharing too.
All right.
Hey,
Happy
good morning,
Friday.
buddy.
Good
Happy
morning
Friday.
to you. Yes, and a beautiful day it is
Yeah,
once again.
welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards,
And I'm Merle Garrison.
fresh off
Uh,
vacation.
yeah, and I'm getting excited too, Barry, because the weather is already starting to cool down here. We were really having a bunch of
Oh,
days that
yeah.
were like 115 plus
Oh,
degrees, which I'm telling you, it feels like remember how you used to burn things with a magnifying
yeah.
glass with the
Ants.
sun? Yeah, it feels like you're one of those ants,
I
actually.
bet. So I didn't ask you about your vacation yet.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it. Sounded incredible.
Well, this was a really unique vacation that we went on. We went to Moab, Utah, and we went there for the purpose of really biking and hiking. And we got an Airbnb up there, and two of our friends, Mike and Amy, met us up there, and we all brought our mountain bikes. And of course, we were mountain biking in the spring and winter time here in Phoenix, and getting pretty good at it. But once it got really hot outside, starting in the beginning of June, really bicycling has been out. So this is one of the maybe the only vacation I've ever taken where I had to work out in order to get prepared to go on the vacation. And I joined the gym and everything. And for about 5 weeks or so before we got there, we were going to the gym and really focusing on a lot of cardio, a lot of just leg lifts and things like that, stairs. We knew we were going to do the hiking and biking and be in the altitude. So we wanted to enjoy it. And we were really consistent on making sure we were physically ready to go. And getting there and doing this, thank God I did all of that before I got there, because it made a total
I
difference in
bet.
the enjoyment that I had. So we got there, and first off, the Airbnb we stayed in was absolutely beautiful,
Oh, yeah.
surrounded by mountains. It was a townhouse. It had a swimming pool and a hot tub there. We had a
Nice.
grill. We had all kinds of food that we all brought. We ate like kings and queens.
Well, were you starving like at the end of every day?
I wasn't starving, but because I always had my snacks and everything. I kept myself so I didn't
My
get
God.
myself depleted and all. But we did really good. The first 2 days we did some intense biking. In
Oh, it
fact,
sounds so fun.
this was the most intense mountain biking I've ever done, and I've done some pretty good mountain biking.
You
And
see this picture? I'm sorry.
by no means hold on, I got to get to it. I was looking at something else.
Oh,
Yeah,
where'd it
yeah,
go?
yeah.
Look at
I
this.
uh, uh, boy, that is absolutely beautiful. That's not where we stayed, but
No, but I mean, my God, did this look like that? I mean, it looks like
yes.
Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoon.
Oh, it totally did the whole time. It was just
Yeah.
like there were so many places where I thought, man, that's exactly where Wile E. Coyote would stand waiting for the
Yeah.
Roadrunner. I mean, it
Oh,
was
that's a
really
bucket
amazing.
list for me to
Well, this
do
was a
that.
bucket list for me too. In
Yeah.
fact, Barry, I've been mountain biking since college, and I used to get this mountain biking magazine, and almost every issue had some feature of Moab in there. And I've been wanting to go and experience this ever since I've been in college. So this has been a bucket list thing for me. I can tell you that this was the hardest mountain bike riding I've ever done, and
Oh,
also the most
really?
beautiful. Yes, so one of the rides we went on, it's the trail very famous called Slick Rock.
Uh-huh.
And it's like these, you can see a picture of it. You just had a picture of it there for a
Oh, that's all
second.
right. I'll get it.
But Slick Rock looks really smooth, and they're petrified sand dunes is what they are. There's one in the corner, up the upper left corner.
Uh-huh. Right here.
That one right there. Now that it's okay. So here's a couple of things about that. It's horrifying. But you're up there.
I could tell.
This is like a 45-degree angle, and it doesn't look like you should be riding on that. But a couple of things about Slick Rock. It's not slick. It's called Slick Rock because when the early settlers came with their horses with horseshoes,
Oh.
the metal would slide on this
Oh,
rock.
yeah.
But the rock is very porous. so that you can, with your mountain bike tires, they really grip onto this stuff. I never rode that close to the edge of anything. I would not
that
do
picture.
that.
I'm terrified looking at that
I know,
picture.
my hands started sweating when I saw that. So yeah, this was way above my technical skills, all of us actually, but we just took it easy and walked the parts that seemed too dangerous and just enjoyed the scenery and enjoyed just really everything.
Cool, man.
You can see it right here. These in the upper right, these lines on the rock, those are painted onto the rock so you don't get lost there.
Oh,
and I'll
that's
tell you,
smart.
The elements there are brutal. I mean, if you don't want to do this by yourself, there was actually at Slick Rock a practice trail and then the regular trail.
Oh, really?
And
it's like skiing.
Yeah, so the practice one is just as hard as the regular one. It's just shorter. And when I first started reading about it, I thought, oh, we're doing the regular one. The heck with the practice one. But we did the practice one, and thank God we did that because it was almost overwhelming, Barry. At one point it was like, oh my God, when is this going to end? Because it's so taxing and kind of scary. And every time you turn a corner, it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to do that or
You're kind of talking me out of it.
I'm telling you that there was a mental thing about this, and in many ways it reminded me of skiing. And I'm not a big skier, but Anne-Marie taught me, so she taught me how to ski, and she taught me one thing that was really important, is that most of what you're seeing, it's all about perception. It's 90% in your mind, how you do on this. And so when I first got to this trail, the Slick Rock Trail, everything looked really scary, but by the time I got to the end, my perception changed. And boy, that just looks like me right there.
It does.
My perception changed, and it was kind of like, oh, this isn't as hard as it actually looked. So there's a big mental thing there along with the physical thing, but it was really cool. We went on to so that was the first 2 days. We did a lot of biking on the first 2 days, but the last day I was there, it was just Anne-Marie and I, and we went hiking all day long. And we went to Canyonland, and we went to Arches National Park. So the two parks in Moab where you can go and see these arches, which were
they show them all the time.
Amazing, right? Oh, I've never seen them in real life before. I've always wanted to see these, and you can. There was a couple of them we hiked to in Canyonland, and it was really pretty intense hike to get there. And there was a couple of places where it was like kind of scary, actually. Like everybody, there were people that were taking their kids up there with absolutely no fear. But I got to a point where I was kind of got into a little panicky area, and I decided, hey, you know what, this isn't fun, and I backed right back down. But there are some intense places you can go here. And then there's other places where, wow, that one on the upper right, that is really something.
It's a little Photoshop there. You got a planet there behind it.
Yeah, what's going on there? Anyway, but it was, that picture though, I wouldn't have been surprised if I would have seen something like that.
Oh my God.
In that Arches National Park, it's like 25 miles of just unbelievable sights everywhere you look. And some of them look like actual objects. Like there were a couple of them that looked like huge elephants, and there was one that looked like a lamb. And you're like, how did this happen? How in the world did this happen? And there's all kinds of geological explanations, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think they really know. This is a wonderland. It is a wonderland.
The pictures are astounding. Absolutely. Look at you see this picture up there right now?
And we saw this stuff. I mean, this is you got to go up there and see this. It is a jewel. From here, it took about an 8-hour drive.
I didn't think it'd be that long.
I didn't either, actually. But yeah, and then on the way back, it took me about 10 and a half hours to get back because I came back on Labor Day. So I hit the traffic in a couple of spots, but it was something. You can see here they have Jeep tours. You can rent Jeeps and these things called razors and go on these tours. We didn't do any of that stuff, but that's a
how
big
cool would
deal
that
out
be?
there too.
Look at that
Yeah,
picture right
I
there.
know, right? Yeah,
I can't believe that Jeep
I'm
can
telling
go
you,
over
like
that.
you fall down in one of these areas, and you're not going to be a happy camper.
Well, I remember what got this on my bucket list, and you and I talked about it some years ago, was that movie. I think it's called 48 Hours. Now that's the one with Eddie Murphy.
Right,
It was something like that. It was
right.
something like 48 Days. But it starred James Franco. Is that his name? But it starts out in the movie. It's all about when he's mountain biking out there in Utah.
Oh,
yeah, he gets wedged in between two rocks.
yeah.
But
I saw that guy live speak about his experience at a trade show one time.
Oh God, I wouldn't want to hear it. Ugh.
No, it was tough. But the way that he describes everything, it wasn't cringy. It was more like you heard his heart the whole time, which was kind of cool. It was actually encouraging.
Huh.
He's a motivational speaker now.
I bet he is. Hey, in other
wait,
stuff.
I got another announcement.
Yeah.
Today is Anne Marie's birthday, and so I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Anne Marie. I would hate if you announced my birthday on the podcast.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's like if somebody said it, somebody did do that on Facebook, and then everybody starts saying happy birthday. I don't know. It just seems like another piece of personal information people could use somehow, part of your identity.
Oh man, now we're gonna have to edit this out.
Hey, I wanted to share the screen again for you because once in a while I do these design contests, and it's really nice. So a bunch of friends from high school and everywhere else will vote on these designs that my client has not even seen yet. And it's really fun. They say it's really fun. They really like when I do this. And but for me, I get to give this kind of test study to my client along with the logo proof. So these are 4 different proofs of a logo that I'm going to propose to my client. And I do wonder, and I said this in the comments, I do wonder if the order I put them in it sways somebody, because everybody overwhelmingly voted on number 1 right here.
Really? Now that is interesting.
Yeah. Now listen, with logos, you need a vertical version and a horizontal version. So that's what you see with all of these. So here's number 2, a 3D effect. By the way, it's important to know that this customer does metal finishing systems. And that is like if a company makes a car part that's all made out of metal, they will it'll go through all this cleaning and surfacing process. And so they build those systems for clients.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very industrial kind of a client. I like this one a lot for its simplicity. Again, the kind of client that it is. All of them I wanted to look. This one is very conceptual. So because the client both designs the systems, meaning like on a CAD and like architectural.
I see.
And builds them as well. So that's the concept here of the designing and then the finish.
Finished. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Interesting.
So guys, if anybody wants to vote on these, just go to our YouTube channel, or you could go to Over 50 Starting Over and go to the post page itself. And let me know which number you like.
Okay, go to number 1 again. Huh. Yep. Interesting. Okay.
I do like this one. I think they're going to end up going with that. But
that is a really good one. Good. Let me see number 2 again.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one too.
It's interesting.
What a tough these
well, you know, the
tough.
worst.
This is tough stuff right here, because it's so every little detail is so important on this, and
it is.
It's a science. I mean, this is science, isn't it?
It's a science and art. Yeah, it is. The most important thing is to do a design that's appropriate to the situation. I mean, logos should have like a stamp-like quality, and they should be very easy to read. I mean, it always bothers me when people do wispy fonts and stuff, and it's like, what does that say? That's not doing a good service. But it really needs to speak to their clientele. So when their prospect comes to the website and sees, often a logo is the first impression someone has of your company. and it's hard to come over a bad first impression. So you want a very good professional first impression. So that's what we're going for here. And I know with any of these, it'll be a really big improvement for this company. And the hard thing about this, Merle, is that I got to throw away all the other proofs.
Every time I can't even imagine.
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, these are timely creations, but
yeah.
Let's move on from that. I just thought it'd be fun. If somebody wanted to give feedback, like I said, on our YouTube page or on over50startingover.com, would really appreciate it.
I was just thinking as I was looking at those, I mean, there's got to be some psychological science around just like the colors that you use and just how you draw people into the logo. And you're right. These logos, they're so important because
they are,
they give a feel of the company. They either attract or repel.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one of my first experiences with kind of logo. My dad worked for the phone company, Ohio Bell.
Yes.
And we always had that same logo, that bell with the circle around it. And then Ohio Bell turned into Ameritech. And then there was this, I remember the new logo for Ameritech, and actually I think AT&T still uses that. And actually it was AT&T, the same logo they've been using. And it used to be that bell, but then they changed it. And man, as a kid, it was disruptive. It was just like my whole world has changed right here. Like this isn't even a telephone anymore. It threw me off. Now they change logos a lot, but back then that didn't happen. Maybe it was because I was a kid and I just hadn't.
No, I agree with you. And I'm thinking about that. I wonder why that is, because changing a logo for an established brand is a big deal.
I mean,
and
I
think
been
it's
in business
risky
for 100 years using the same logo.
You're losing the recognition, which is you spend all this time and effort to build. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah. It's interesting how important that is.
Yeah, I've mentioned before some time ago, we talked about logos on here, and I always say having a bad logo, it's overcoming a bad first impression. It's possible. Look at Staples' logo. Like at the Office Max store, Staples. Yeah. Oh, it looks like somebody's little brother did it. It's the L is like a bent staple.
Right.
It's like, oh God. When I do a logo and I'm doing all my initial sketches and proofs and all that, I have to get through all the trite stuff first. It's so embarrassing. I'd never show anybody, but you got to do it to evolve to a better level. And this is like someone's little brother's first attempt, that Staples logo.
Yeah. What's interesting is my daughter, Hallie, she's just like you on this. We'll be driving down the street. And she'll be like, look at that logo. And then she'll tell me everything wrong with the logo that I didn't notice at first. Sure. But now I'm like, that logo sucks.
Right. I always make sure I get Hallie's feedback on them. She always gives me and she did on this one as well.
Really good
feedback. Yeah, so really I appreciate that. And I saw her portfolio a couple of years ago. It's wonderful. It's a lot of fashion oriented kind of stuff. And what is that? I don't know if we should mention, but the company that she works for. I just wanted to mention the kind of work that she was.
Well, it's a hair company, and dude, I had a hat in here with her logo on it. I forgot the name of the company, but they do hair products, and she does the design for really all of them. I mean, she's all over that, and she just had her 6-year anniversary over there, so congratulations.
Absolutely. Hey, on that note, this is a good segue. I wanted to talk about, I thought this would make a great title for the show, Men versus Women.
Yeah.
How do you like
that? There's a lot to unpack in Men versus Women, so I'm a little nervous. My hands started sweating.
I know. So what I wanted to probably primarily talk about is how do you want to say it? God, I'm at a point anymore, 57 years old. Certain words just don't come to me. I get stuck all the time. There's a word I'm looking for when I say the philosophy. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but of the pay gap of men versus women. And I've researched this a lot, and there's a lot to talk about in order to unpack that. But I want to do a spoiler alert. And that is, at the end of this, we're going to find because I just imagine so many people triggered, men versus women. Oh, where's this going? And oh my God, and all of this. It's a thing. At the end of this, we're going to find that we're different, and no one's better than the other.
Okay.
But we're different, and thank God, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because we've said before, if it were for the women in our lives, women in general, men would be living under bridges.
It would be horrible.
Eating hot dogs.
Yeah. It would be a brutal, disgusting,
but
smelly.
We'd be, happy. Happy is just like, we wouldn't know better.
Yeah. I think it'd be terrible.
I did my Googling, which is always, Google is almost the last resort for me as far as search engine goes, because they censor so much and they're so politically driven. I mean, that company needs broken up badly. And but of course, when I typed in something like pay gap, men versus women, I think I typed in, do men make more than women? Do men really make more than women? And you're just going to come up with on Google all the Reuters, oh God, I had it up here somewhere, but all of these left-leaning publications, and all talking about, they're all saying, of course, the same thing, that women make 83 cents on the dollar to men. And this is a typical example of just picking your data as you wish, and it's more importantly, leaving out very important data.
Right on.
Such as hours worked. Men work more hours. And when you and this is more complete studies. I just listened to a podcast on this just the other day. Men are just accounting for hours, adding that into the equation, it's a wash. That's really where it's accounted for. Now, put on top of that all of the industries that men work in that are more profitable, that women do not, like upper 90% of men work in industries, the trades, anything to do with our infrastructure. All of these very important, we've mentioned before in podcasts gone by, but engineering jobs are very high paying and are very much predominantly men. And women, because men like things and women are more interested in people. So women will gravitate more into nonprofits, which don't pay great, but are very rewarding in a number of levels. And nursing, of course, but a lot of nurses work very long hours too. And there are outliers. Oh my God, when I told Lisa last night, Merle and I are going to talk about men versus women, I got the whole triggered response right away, which was funny. And Lisa's a huge outlier. She works harder than anybody in the company that she works with. And I've had the distinction of growing up with and knowing strong women my entire life, and my mother being the first. And I've worked with for decades, my friend Susan, who could navigate, like Lisa, can navigate through corporate America like no one else I've ever seen. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that too. Like Susan, I'd always appreciate, she was in marketing, and she would bring me in to do the design implementation of whatever the latest project was. And so I would have meetings that she worked at lots of different places, some very high ranking places, such as university hospitals, I could say that, or Case Western Reserve University.
Right.
And we would go into these meetings, and I swear this is corporate America, and I could never do it full time ever. It's okay. So we need to do this certain project. We need to make a 24-page catalog, and what needs to go in it. And it's like, if you're not really sure that you're great at your job, then you're the naysayer. Well, it'll never work because of this, this, and this. And Susan would just go, oh, okay. And then tell you how she wouldn't put you down. She would just say how we're going to cut right through that and get this done. Simply and clearly. I just always really appreciated that. And Lisa will, my God, she'll just take on everyone's work. I hate to say, she works so hard and efficiently, but so hard I don't know how her brain doesn't break. But my point is that I've worked with the most competent people, women, in any industry. So and they make good money is also my point. These competent women in corporate America make very good money. So anyways, this whole pay gap thing, do your research on that. First and foremost comes down to, on average, men work more hours because women will take their families into consideration more than men will.
I was going to ask you what the big difference was there. Obviously, when men and women are married and they're having families, the woman is going to have to take more time off than the man is, just because of biology.
And expectations. Men are expected. We expected of ourselves that we were going to toe that line.
And I think there's still some of that culture that we're dealing with here. But when it comes to the workplace, men and women, I mean, you're not really seeing the good old boy network being
not
what
the way
it was in the past. Women are seen in the business world as equals and extremely competent. And in fact, many times we see women dominating various areas of business.
My field, marketing.
I have to say, I mean, it really doesn't matter. And women have a different way of approaching things than men do. And when we see that in the business world, the way that men and women work together, men see things women don't see, women see things men don't see. And when we work together, then we cover all those gaps. And
it's a really good point.
I think that there is no place really for that type of old-time discrimination that we've seen out there. People are people and they work together, and what we all bring to the table collectively can be the big winner. And I think, we talk a lot about diversity in life, in the workplace, but it's bigger than just men and women or black and white. It's also diversity of thought. And when we come from different cultures and different sexes, then, there's obviously diversity there. But I think that businesses that do the best are also looking for people that just have different ways of approaching things, different methodologies of approaching things, so that they can, again, so that they don't miss anything, so that they can maximize on the creativity of their human capital. And women play a huge role in that, and so does everybody else. So
what I would like to say about this whole thing, Merle, is it's a matter of how you look at things. It's just like every time we get into this, let's put in quotes, woke philosophy. If you want to look at history as if it started 200 years ago with slavery and go from that angle and how horrible we were at a point in time, okay, you do that. That's a miserable life that you are choosing to lead, that perspective. But if you look at things as a whole, here's what depends on how you want to look at things. We are also the country that abolished slavery, and slavery's gone on throughout all of time and still is going on in so many ways. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting that we blind ourselves to that truth. The thing with the women in the job force, my God, there's a positive way to look at this. This has only been 50 or 60 years they've been in the job force. And we saw how they were vastly underpaid, underappreciated, and treated very poorly. I remember actually when women were called into the workforce in, was it the 20s, World War I or II?
World War II was a huge
when women started coming into factories.
Exactly.
And
that's
they didn't even
one where the woman is, we can do this.
But they didn't even have their own restrooms back then. And so rapes would happen and things like that. So talk about the period of adjustment we've had to come, but it was mostly in the 70s. They really joined the general workforce in mass. And sexual harassment was a gigantic factor up until about the turning of the century, the 21st century. And I'm getting this straight from Lisa, my beautiful partner, who's been beautiful her entire life and has faced a lot of sexual harassment, she said, like in the 90s. But come the year 2000, about then, boy, that turned around real quick. I mean, there's just a lot of laws passed where now men, if you're called into HR for even an accusation, your entire career is on the line right then and there. And if there's truth to it, there's good reason for it. But my point being is the point of view, the perspective that we put on this. And And you know they want to keep us divided. We talk about it every podcast, as we should. That the media, complicit with the political structure, they want to keep us divided in every way that they can, and they own our politicians own the media. We know that, and so they put out they pick and choose their data so that they can come out and say, "Oh, women make 83 cents on the dollar," as long as you look at just the specific stuff. So,
I agree with this. Yeah.
oh, totally. Yeah. When we should be looking at it like, look how far we've come, and look at what we're talking about. I'm going to say. To back up what you said a few minutes ago about women bringing a perspective to certain things, the marketing and as far as marketing goes, that whole industry, they dominate. They just think in such a way, and they're very, what's the word, conscientious. Women, and this is a psychological term. You can either be conscientious or what's the other side? I forget. But conscientiousness is making sure that all your T's are crossed, all your I's are dotted. And women are really good at that in general. And so they dominate marketing. They're good with statistics, generally speaking. And, I'm not. My end of marketing is the more creative side. It's not the numbers side. So I've always respected women in my industry for sure.
Well, I know just in my marriage, I am very big picture, and my wife is very detail oriented.
Yeah, so I'd say I'm the same. Yeah,
we put those things together. It works for us. I mean, sometimes it causes conflict, but putting the big picture together and then the details together and working together instead of being divided, that's the winning ticket right there.
And also what you said about it sometimes causes conflict. Well, you're not solving problems if you don't have some conflict. You'd actually call that a codependent relationship. And I know people in them. I've been in them before, and they're horrible.
Yeah, conflict isn't always bad. It's actually a very good thing. And I was watching a TV show the other day where a man and a woman got into this big argument, and then a friend came in and broke it up. And he says to the other guy, "Hey, as long as you're arguing, there's still love there." Because she still cares, right?
Right.
I mean, I thought that was an interesting statement.
Well, and Lisa and I must love each other dearly.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when we take a look at the difference between men and women, and there are differences, and thank God, as you said.
And you and I talk about them a lot personally, and we laugh and say, we'd said a couple of weeks ago, we were having this kind of a conversation, and we started laughing about, we should do a podcast on this from a man's point of view. And you're like, yeah, it would have to be backlit so you only see our silhouettes.
Yeah, to have like the voice,
like
the vocal
Larry and Pearl.
Yeah, one day change our voices.
Yeah, right. Robot sounding. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we do have very, very big differences. That's why you say my better half, because we do. And generally speaking, we all have unique traits. Of course, we're all individuals, but generally speaking, we come together like gears of a clock gears. We fill each other's gaps.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. You were bringing up something though that I thought was really interesting. And that is that these differences are used to divide us by nefarious sources but I was thinking about in comparing this to race and how Barack Obama became the president, and I remember thinking
that's where the great divide started.
This is the end of this whole race divide.
Yeah,
now
that's what I thought.
We've got a black president. It's over. And I remember even though I didn't vote for Barack Obama, remember when he gave his big acceptance speech in Chicago, and it was a big, big deal. It was so historic that a black man had won the presidency. Yeah, he really was. And I was even excited. Like I got emotional about it. I remember seeing Al Sharpton in the audience crying, and I got a tear in my eye. I'm like, me and Al Sharpton are crying together. I don't even like this, but whatever.
Yes.
But because it was a big deal, but then systematically destroying the race relations was the result of this whole thing. And so like these things, like you said, they can go either way. You can look at them either way. If you we can make the greatest strides in race relations or gender relations, but then it's all in the way that we look at it that determines whether we're going up or we're going down.
There was a podcast yesterday I was listening to, is Dave Smith. I've been talking about him a lot. I like his podcast a lot. I highly recommend it.
Smart guy.
Fits in with our show quite well. He was talking about, I'm going to mess this up, but I remember it's 2016. So Obama was president and there was a mass shooting. Like, I don't remember how many people got shot in a nightclub, a gay nightclub. In Florida,
down in Florida. Yep.
Yeah. And oh God. Okay. So I'm just doing this from memory. So Obama comes out and says that it was a big shock or slap in the face. I think he said slap in the face to the LGBTQ community, or however letters there were back then. And he totally made it about that right then and there. He did this so many times in so many levels. He really fanned the flames of all this divide in and he had the opportunity to, as you said, heal everything. And so this guy's the shooter's manifesto comes out, and Dave read it. I think maybe he's recited it from memory. I don't know, but it was very long and very detailed about how he hates the United States. This is a attack on the United States because you're bombing us every day. And I don't know, was Yemen is today. But it was, in the Middle East. He's like, every day you're bombing us. And I want this to be an awakening for the United States.
Had nothing to do with a gay club whatsoever.
Exactly. Yeah. And to the other side's credit,
all the time. They do this all the time.
All the time. To the other side's credit, Trump also said the same thing about the same deal in 2016 about that same time. Buddy, would you mind pausing just for a minute so I get something to drink?
No, I don't mind at all.
Okay, 1 second. All right, so we're back. Look at that. Magic, we're back in 1 second. I had another thing that I wanted to share that it's going to have us going a little bit backwards, but there's nothing wrong with that. Just quickly, we were talking about that perceived pay divide between men and women. Well, even NPR, who I completely lost respect for in about 2016, 2015, maybe.
Yeah.
They have an article here. Young women earn more than young men in several U.S. cities. So how about that? I can't believe they would even print that, because it's kind of a counter to their.
Yeah. And what's interesting, Barry, we're seeing a lot of things where, for instance, more women are graduating from college than men are.
I can speak to that.
Yeah, so we're seeing where women are seeming to exceed men in many of these areas that were traditionally men dominated. So there's a lot of changes, and you also, I'll give you a second to speak on that. And you also brought up the engineering thing. I mean, there are many of these trades, many of these professions that just really men are attracted to, that women just don't care to be a part of. I mean, it's interesting to see, like, for instance, I ride motorcycles, and there are women that ride motorcycles, and I think it's really cool to see a woman on a motorcycle. But it's mostly men, and it's not a discriminatory thing. It's just that
motorcycles are heavy.
And there's the engine and the oil and the loud noise and all that kind of stuff. And there's that thrill of being out there and the road's going past you, 80 miles per hour. That's a man thing. Men love that kind of stuff, but there's women out there that are good at it, maybe could do better than men at it. But culturally, it's more of a man thing. And
culturally, for sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. Women, by far and away, their number one priority in life is safety. And so
security,
security, but safety. And so they want to feel it. So whether it comes from, that's why they're attracted to men with good careers and stuff. It provides that safety and security. To the college thing, the trend is definitely less and less men, boys, whatever you want to say, are going to college because of the masculization that is going on there. And there's a virtual war on men today. That's kind of a part of the topic of today. And so what's happening is, and Jordan Peterson has spoken to this. I'll forget most of the genius that he said about it, but men and women go to college mostly to find mates. And with 60% of the attendance being women these days, they're not really finding good, viable mates at the same rate. So he's saying, along with the horrible academic curriculum going on today, that colleges are just in every way shooting themselves in the foot, and they're going to change. They're going to change one way or the other. I think they're going to largely go online. I think Jordan Peterson, he's got a crew working on a whole college curriculum, and I think it will be 100% online. And when that thing becomes available, you're going to get a better education out of that than you will out of any college.
It's really interesting what you're talking about right now, Barry. I've been reading a lot of Thomas Sowell's work, and he was talking about
need to do that.
Oh, he is an amazing. The logic that this man has is amazing. But he was talking about the college experience and the difference between a lot of these minorities that are going to college are majoring in liberal arts degrees, and with getting those liberal arts degrees, getting out of college, well, you have a degree, but it's a liberal arts degree, and you're not going to get the same kind of pay that you're going to get if you major in.
But you're going to have kind of $100,000 in debt.
And here's the other point that he was making is that who hires people with liberal arts degrees? The federal government. And so a lot of these people end up working for the government. And it's a vicious circle. So look what the federal government is the one that's subsidizing these colleges and controlling the curriculum, and then feeding those people into employment into the federal government. By the way, our federal government, as you know, is the #1 employer in the world.
Yes.
The largest employer in the world.
And it should not be that way at all.
I mean, if George Washington could hear about this now.
Well, that's again, I preach at Vivek Ramaswamy's ideals so much. I like him a lot because, he says the first thing he would do is lay off 75% of the government. I love the sound of that. Absolutely love that. But more than anything, I love the fact that he could give a brand new hope and light to the millennial generation that is inheriting the power. And I'll say it, nobody wants to admit it, like this hurts, but the generations that got us into this mess, meaning ours, Gen X and the boomers, are not going to get us out of it. So it's up to them.
It's too late. Yeah.
And they need that kind of hope and energy. They've been crapped on by us the whole time. We created them and then we crap on them like they made themselves. And so I'm just really bothered by all that. And there's a lot of hope there. And that Ramaswamy dude is very, very smart. So I just
he's a smart guy.
I'd like to see a lot more of his presence out there.
Yeah, he's quite a phenomenon happening out there right now. But I mean, does he have a chance to win the presidency? It's so hard to tell what the heck is going on right now.
What the heck is going on? Telling you that they're grooming us to put Newsom in there instead of Biden. It's coming.
I mean, and at the same time, Barry, the time is running short. Usually you're locked in on this kind of stuff, right? I mean, the debates are already starting to happen. So in order to make that change out, I mean, clearly the president of the United States right now has mental capacity issues.
Clearly.
We saw him just the other day giving the Medal of Honor presentation, and he put that medal on the guy. And as soon as they started clapping, he must have thought the whole thing was over, and he bolted.
Leaving that poor guy standing there by himself, and the look on his face, I felt so bad for him.
He was like a lost kitten.
Yeah, he didn't know what to
caught
do.
in a tree or something,
Biden, oh my God, he's so embarrassing. He never knows what he's doing, where he's at, or what he's saying.
The way he walked out of there, though, there's such a determined look on his face, like I'm the president, and but okay, so we can't. What are we going to do? And
what are we going to do?
We can't beat Kamala Harris, who, by the way, this week has said that she's ready to fill in if she needs to. And it's like,
oh God,
wow, man. Oh, I forgot to send you that video of the Kamala Harris impersonator. And it's that song, "Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow."
Oh, okay.
And that's in the background. And then she's going, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. She's doing all this stuff.
Gotta send that.
Like, this is it's ridiculous.
Could you by a chance pull it up and share it?
I wonder if I could. Let me. It's hard for me to do two things at the same time.
Do you want me to pause?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Shit. Oops. We're just gonna do this thing.
Okay, that sounds good.
Let's check it.
Here it is. Now this woman turns right into, you'll see her just morph right into Kamala Harris. Hard to believe.
I'm going to read this comment for those that are listening. It says at the top here, I lost the comment asking for song lyrics read in Kamala voice, but here you go. Okay, whatever. Let's see what we got.
If you wake up, okay, and don't want to smile, if it takes a little while, okay, listen, open your eyes, okay, and look at the day, okay? You gotta look at the day. You do.
Oh my God.
And listen, you'll see things in a different way, okay? Listen, full stop. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow, okay? Don't stop, because it'll soon be here, okay? It'll soon be here. It'll be here better than before, okay? Yesterday is gone. Yesterday's gone, okay? It's gone. And listen, full stop. It is gone. Yeah.
Oh, that is so good. Oh my God, that was so good. That was
worth it. Yeah, that was totally worth it. How did she? These comedians can, when they do the imitations, it doesn't matter what they look like, they morph right into the person. It's so crazy. Here's a green-eyed blonde woman that could actually looked like Kamala as she was doing that laughter and everything.
I think his name Kyle what's his name? Dunham. Oh, I can't think of his name. He's a really good comedian. I shared a little bit of his stuff before. He does Joe Biden, and he's got that hilarious intro that's done to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes, I've watched that several times.
God, he's so good at the Biden thing.
Just hilarious.
Think if Saturday Night Live was still Saturday Night Live.
They are missing
the material.
It's just like it's a laugh machine that's happening over there.
Right.
Like, why this is their forte and they're totally missing it. I mean, the very first episode they did, Chevy Chase was pretending to be Gerald Ford and he fell down that flight of stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the stuff they have today. I mean, they've got every week, they could do a whole show every week on this stuff.
For sure. I think it's their last season, or was it over?
Wow, I heard something like that. It should be. They've run their course. They're done.
It's terrible.
I don't even watch it anymore.
I thought it was at its very lowest point during the Trump and Hillary election. Oh, when Trump won the election and that one blonde comedian is at the piano doing the Hillary thing like this. Yeah. Oh, it was
hallelujah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was the lowest point.
I mean, because it was like, this isn't funny and you guys are just belly aching because your person didn't win. And now your show has turned into just, it's all about, left-leaning politics.
It's all it is.
Trying to jam your woke message down our throat.
Back to the upcoming election. I know that we say this all the time, but this is not a democracy anymore. We are not choosing the candidates that we want to represent us.
No.
And, so we're debating whether they're actually going to be able to shove Biden and Harris down our throats again, which would be a very bitter pill for everybody, even on the left, to swallow. I mean, they don't like them over there either.
Yeah, you're seeing that. I mean, and there's a
they
lot of
they got it
reasons for
thought out.
this. Well, I think it's really interesting now. We're seeing the Democrats actually infighting, and a lot of it has to do with this border crisis that we're dealing with right now.
Even the mayor of New York is
Eric
speaking out.
Adams is
Yeah.
saying that this they're getting 10,000 immigrants a month, illegal immigrants a month in their city, and that it's breaking down the city and their society. Just, you know, this is that they're not going to make it, that they're just not going to make it, and they have never seen anything like it. And meanwhile, he was on the Biden campaign, and as soon as he started complaining about the people that were coming into his city, the Biden campaign fired him. He's no longer a part of the Biden campaign any longer, which is, it's just interesting. You know, this is an American problem that we're having. It doesn't matter if you're a blue state or a red state. Our cities are systematically being destroyed on purpose.
Yeah.
And even these guys don't like it. And this is really a crazy thing that we're seeing. And it's almost like poetic justice, because here Eric Adams, when he was campaigning to be the mayor of New York, he was bragging about how New York City was a sanctuary city, and
there you go,
and making everybody else seem like they were bigots for not wanting this influx of people coming in from other countries. But we saw him the other day complaining about not just the immigrants coming in, but the immigrants that are coming in from multiple countries around the world. So it's not just a Mexican or Southern.
Let me speak to that for a minute, though.
Go right ahead.
Last night I was walking Charlie across over at the park, the lake over there, and we made a lot of doggy friends, you know, and
that's cool.
The dog owners. Most of us don't even know each other's names. We just know the dog's names.
Isn't that funny how that works?
It's so funny, and it's like it's socially acceptable, you know. And anyways, one of our friends, her name is Asha, and her dog is Pluto, and he and Charlie are very good friends, and Asha's Indian. And she's in some kind of research at Case, and it's like a lot of people around here. We have such a diverse population right around here, really great people, lots of Indians, and that have something to do with Case usually. And she was telling me just last night that she hasn't seen her husband since December. He's in Tennessee working his job, some kind of a doctor type of thing. And so she's doing this research, and she's telling me that she might actually have to go back to India, and where her job, there's no demand for her job there. And she says, but her visa is going to run out. Now she's over here doing great things for this country and sacrificing this time with her husband so that they're trying to make lives for themselves while they're working so hard for us. And we might deport them. What my point is, and what I said to her, we have got to change everything in this country. We're letting all of these illegals in for all of these years. And like, we're not even supposed to talk about it. And they're not, you know, most of them, I would say, probably not the most desirable people that we want here. Whereas legally, we're forcing these people out that are coming in, working very hard with like the real American dream. You know, and
absolutely,
that are born in, that are third, fourth, fifth generation Americans are totally entitled, and we should feel very lucky to be here and do our jobs about making this country a lot better. We're trying to do that right now, and but we need to grease the wheels of legal immigration for these great people. I mean, they're so nice.
Yep,
and we need to
totally agree.
Tighten up the border. It's
and I think that
sense.
the border situation is making it harder for people like you're talking about right now, Asha and Pluto, there's not room any longer. And look at the problem that they've caused. And here's another one. These people are coming in, and they're coming in with their children, and the children are innocent in this situation. Again, the New York City schools overwhelmed by 21,000 immigrant children seeking education. The first day of classes kicked off in New York City on Thursday as schools grappled with the influx of migrant immigrant students, with some buildings turning away kids as 21,000 children seeking asylum inundated already jam-packed classrooms. The line to get inside Newcomers High School in Long Island City stretched around the block early Thursday as frustrated teachers vented that the building had already hit capacity, pushing students at Gotham, a different school inside the building, to a facility across the street. And this is going to now these kids that came in are going to have a hard time getting educated, and the kids that already live here, their education has been disrupted. And now, do these kids even speak English that came in? How are they going to deal with that whole situation? And this is, I mean, we should have thought of this before we let all these people into the country. And still, Mayorkas is saying that the border is secure.
Oh my
How can that be? How can that be?
Everybody knows that's a lie.
Now we're coming into election season, and Biden is wanting to be reelected, but the reelection process seems to be centered on indicting any of your political enemies. Of course, Trump has over 100 now. They're indicting they've indicted the Republican electors in Michigan. It looks like it's going to happen here in Arizona as well as Wisconsin. And so just the crazy thing about these electors is the average age of electors is around 70 years old. So these people live on a fixed income. And when these legal fees, these unexpected legal fees start coming in, it destroys these people, and everybody else that's watching it says, hey, I don't want any of that. And therefore
silenced.
It silences the people that want to do what's right for the country because they can't afford to be ruined. And that's what's happening right now. And it is really a change that's happened here in America. We've never seen anything like this before. However, we have seen this type of activity in the Soviet Union. We've seen it in Venezuela and Cuba, in China, in every communist country. We've seen this. So what does that mean for America? Well, we're being captured by communism, by fascism. This is what's happening here, and it's got to stop.
Yeah. Now, if that's your team, then maybe you like that thing, but it is what it is, and it's never ever had a good outcome. It's caused nothing but starvation, even cannibalism, amongst its people. So, here's the best
cannibalism. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. How about that?
In Russia.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, the amount of people that have literally starved to death under communism, it's in the millions and millions.
Look how fast it took Venezuela down. And here's another thing about the borders and everything. It's a testament to how young civilization is. And I think that we always think that we're so civilized, and we're absolutely not. Everything south of the border is gorgeous. I mean, physically is gorgeous. The Caribbean and Haiti and Venezuela and what I know of South America, which isn't a whole lot, but
me neither.
These are beautiful. I wish I knew a lot more. It's such a gigantic part of the planet. But these absolutely gorgeous areas, and they're all run by these banana republics, and they all want to get into America so bad. And we're on the precipice of turning into that as well.
We are.
So
we are. And as we take a look at it, go ahead.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, how do so many people not overpower so few people, meaning their government, and cause change, democracy? Real democracy. Because we can't do it. How many people? 360 million people in this country, and we can't do it.
That. Yeah. Well, and we've seen this kind of activity before in the world, where large populations have been subjugated by a relatively small group of people, and it always happens the same way. They capture the supply chain. That they capture the banking, they capture the politics and the media. And once you have those things in your back pocket, you can tend to change the rudder. You can steer the boat wherever you want it to go.
The first thing you do, I think it was it Hitler, or no, it was It was Mussolini in Italy, I think, who went into this whole women's rights campaign. And that's what you do. You take the minority, create the diversity, and tell them how you're with them, solidarity, and you're gonna provide the solution.
Yeah, and look at that. It's brilliant what you're saying, Barry, because these things that these organizations have been able to do typically are able to do it by positioning themselves as, you need me to save you.
Yep.
And I know what's best for you. I'm going to help you. And it's just like Ronald Reagan said, the scariest words in history is
the government will
we're here to help you. Yeah. We're the government.
He had some great one-liners.
Yeah, he had some great ones for sure.
But the Democratic Party has been doing that to the Black community for decades and decades.
They really have. They've
never delivered
the Black community into
delivered
submission. Right. And when you hear our president talk about the Black community, no diversity of thought. He talks about they don't know how to use computers, that they don't have attorneys, that if they're not Black, if they don't vote for Biden, they're not Black. I mean, these are some of the most insulting things I've ever heard before.
You would think.
I heard Larry Elder being interviewed by Charlemagne the God recently. And Charlemagne the God is the Black podcaster that interviewed Joe Biden, where Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, then you're not Black. So he had Larry Elder on, and I'm a big fan of Larry Elder, love that guy. And Charlemagne the God said, have you ever had and this is derogatory, the N-word wake-up call? And Larry said, I don't know, what is that? He goes, well, it's when a Black person who doesn't realize they're Black suddenly realizes it in a very harsh way, that they're not like their white friends. And Larry takes a sip of water. He says, oh, brother. And he takes a sip of water right away, and he takes a breath. First off, I love that move because that's a power move right there. It gives you a chance to think about it and not respond emotionally, which is exactly what he was trying to get him to do.
I got to back you up because I wasn't understanding until just now. You were referring to Larry Elder pausing and taking the water in a breath.
Yes. So he's taking a breath. It's talking about an N-word wake-up moment. I'm not going to say the word on here, and you know what it is. And he goes, well, he asked him what it was. Charlemagne the God told him what it was. And then Larry responded this way. He says, well, let me just say this. I know that I'm Black, and I know that you're Black, Charlemagne. And he says, but you had a person come into your studio who was white, who told you that if you didn't vote for him, then you're not Black. I think that should have been a wake-up call for you. And he just put it right back on him. And he said, because how dare he tell you how to think and exactly who to vote for? If I were you, I would have said, hey, I can think for myself. And if I decide to vote for you or somebody else, it has no bearing on what my race is. And in fact, how dare you insinuate that? And that's really how the conversation went. And I love how Larry Elder said that with such calm demeanor. And
that's
really
so important.
I mean, he said, didn't you think about that, Charlemagne? And he says, no, I mean, I just don't get mad at things. I don't even let you get me mad. And he goes, it's not about getting mad. It's about responding. He just insulted you, and you just stood there and take it. I would think that would be an N-word wake-up call for you.
Whoa!
Wow! Love that.
I should try to find that. So I assume that Charlemagne's on the left.
Well, he tried to say that he wasn't, that he was kind of in the middle, and that he didn't have a side when it came to politics, which I don't know, maybe that's true. But what he said was, I was just trying to, make sure I could get what my people need. And I think it's funny when Black people say my people, because those aren't your people. I'm sorry. They're Americans. Everybody, we are the people. It's called we the people.
Yeah.
We're dividing up into these are my people and these are my people. That's not. See, that's the whole thing right there. That's how somebody like Joe Biden can come in and say that kind of thing and divide everybody up.
And
we
then
have a responsibility to not let the fox into the hen house and divide and conquer us that way. And Joe Biden was the fox in that situation.
yeah, boy, I like what you said about Larry Elder. I'm really glad that you shared that on a number of levels, because for one, just the presence of mind to have that kind of a clear comeback, and it also showed the presence of mind that Charlemagne was lacking when Joe Biden was sitting there. I mean,
how could he just sit there and let that guy say that to him? I mean, I remember when I first saw it, I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
Like if somebody were to say that to me, I would have been highly insulted by that. But he didn't even think that was an insult.
And then Biden gets elected. Wasn't it his election speech? How do you say that when he's incoming? His speech, and he said the biggest
inauguration speech. Yeah,
and yes, that's the word. See me in the words. The biggest problem in America is white supremacy.
I couldn't even believe it when he said that.
I still can't believe it. I can't believe that we're not talking about that all day, every day. Seriously.
I mean, come on.
Just set us back another 20, 30 years.
Well, and I think by doing stuff like that, you actually stir up the feelings of white supremacy amongst cell groups.
Dude, I'll tell you straight up, in this community, the hatred towards white people, especially men, is palpable.
Well, it's the attack. You talk about an attack.
I get dirty looks all day long.
Sure. I mean, and it's unbelievable. And here's what's so crazy about it to me, Barry, is that, I mean, look, race relations between black and white people has been an ongoing thing all of our life, right? I mean, we've seen that, but we've
seen better days.
But this is different. I mean, this seems to be coming from characters like Lorne Michaels, right? A very rich, prominent media mogul white person who is putting out this division. Like, it's like you've got a whole show out there, Saturday Night Live, dedicated to showing how bad white people are. And it's, a lot of this is coming from rich white people. Black Lives Matter, for instance. You and I went into an expose on Black Lives Matter on how the three founders were trained Marxist, but then we went into who's financing Black Lives Matter, and it's all of these extremely rich leftist white people around the world. And it's like, well, how could that, if it's called Black Lives Matter, how come these people are in the middle of it? And it's because it has nothing to do with Black lives. It had everything to do with systematically destroying our cities here in America. And when I look at this, here's some news that just came out. The city of Denver just agreed to pay out $4.7 million to 300 Black Lives Matter rioters arrested in 2020.
What? Okay. I didn't hear about this.
Oh, this just came out. And here, let me pull up the article. Not only has Denver done that, this just happened. The city of Denver approved a $4.7 million settlement to more than 300 Black Lives Matter protesters. Do the math on that. They're getting a lot of money over accusations that local law enforcement used excessive force and violated their First Amendment rights. Well, how did they do that? The suit accuses Denver police of implementing an emergency curfew that was applied discriminatorily against protesters. That's a quote. Between May 30th and June 5th, 2020, while more than 350 protesters were originally arrested for violating the public safety order, the majority of charges were subsequently dropped. So they're going to pay these people $4.7 million because they were arrested for rioting and they're saying they lost they're saying it was a protest, but they lost their First Amendment rights. Not only is that happening in Denver, but here's one. Colorado joins a string of American cities that have paid out millions to BLM protesters in recent months. In July, New York City agreed to a $13 million deal, translating to almost $10,000 for each of the thousands of people arrested during the summer protests in Manhattan and Brooklyn.
Wow.
There's another city too. In March, Philadelphia paid nearly $10 million to roughly 350 plaintiffs, citing similar misconduct. Here's a quote. "This power must not go unchecked. It must be confronted," one attorney representing the demonstrators said. The pain and trauma caused by a legacy of systemic racism and police brutality against Black and brown Philadelphians is immeasurable, says Mayor Jason Kenney. So here's what we're doing is that we
Paying
are
people
rewarding
with our
criminal.
taxpayer dollars. Yeah.
With our taxpayer dollars. And meanwhile, people like Marion Sheridan, who we've had on the show, an elector from Michigan, is being indicted for doing her job by turning in the alternate slate of electors back on December 6th, 2020. Meanwhile, these people were burning our cities down and we're paying them tens of millions of dollars.
I don't have words for this, man.
How
I really
in
don't.
the world? And I mean, and if you want to break down society, this is how you do it. When you here's a quote: when you reward and subsidize criminality, you'll get even more of it. Who would have predicted that Democrat cities would become crime-infested, drug-riddled hellscapes? And what do you think will happen the next time the Democrats base gets the signal to riot? I mean, I don't know how else you can look at this.
I don't either. I don't have words for it. I'm sickened by this.
And so what it is, I mean, Black Lives Matter, as we know, is a Marxist organization. And our country is now subsidizing it and rewarding
with
them
our taxpayer
for what
dollars.
they did. Yes, with the money that you and I work for every day. This is what we want. Now, this is the kind of stuff that should be yelled from the rooftops about the types of governments that we have in our cities and states and federal governments. We have to make a change. We can't reward people for destroying our society, for destroying our infrastructure and our communities. We pay for that. And now look who's suffering. Our kids are suffering. We can't get kids into classrooms anymore because there's illegal immigrants that are taking up all the spaces, and we're paying out all this money. Eric Adams in New York was talking about how this is breaking the budget of the city. They don't have money for infrastructure now because of this. This is a gigantic parasite on our Republican system of government, and it's not sustainable.
No, I don't know what to say about that. I'm so appalled about all of this. And I just come back to what I said a few minutes ago. How do you have 360 million people in this country? And well, you know, they look at something like Black Lives Matter and you want to be on the right side of things. You don't want to be called a racist. So you jump on board, you go along with it. And then this is what happens. And you say it's all for the just cause. They don't. I mean, most people don't know better, I don't think.
Well, and the fact is exactly what you just described is the system that has broken down many other nations before ours. And so this is not something that's just randomly happening. It's something that's being coordinated. And we need to put a stop to it. No more of this, oh, the border is secure. Now we've got a real problem. What are we going to do about it? Because I'm tired of all of the excuses. Oh, speaking of Eric Adams, one of the things he said in his speech was he talked about how this is destroying New York. And then he turned it on the audience, the people that live there, and said, what have you done to prevent this kind of thing from happening? Because nobody did anything about it, we're in this situation. Now, I agree with him to a point. And here's the point that I disagree with him, is that when he was elected, he was bragging about how this was a sanctuary city. So it starts with him. The buck stops there. And he tried to blame the citizenry of New York City when this was his responsibility and his fault. And that's what I'm sick of. Is when these politicians that beg for power finally get it, they don't want to take responsibility for anything that they do, unless somehow it makes them look reelectable.
Yeah, very true. It's been on my mind so much lately about absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a truth that we all need to learn, like early in school, and we should do everything. And like, God, someone's talked about it recently, is that you got to know that even you yourself, we always think it's everybody but me. But every one of us, if we are given absolute power, we will abuse it.
We
You
will.
know, it's
That's
just
our
not
human
right.
nature. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
humans.
So I mean, government by the people, for the people, all that, that's really the best you can do. It's the very best you can do, but it's not that anymore. We're not that anymore.
No, it isn't. We're controlled and run, and the communist slash fascist machine is in full effect right now, and nothing good can come out of this.
So my point is, we need to strip down that power. We really
We
do.
absolutely do. Absolutely, Barry, and that needs to happen, and we also have to look out for wolves in sheep's clothing out there too,
Yes.
because those are the people that get pumped into situations where they tell us all the things that sound good to our ears and everything, but then they take power, and this is why it's so important for the press to get the backgrounds of these people that are running for president. You know, Tucker Carlson did a great interview last week. I forget the guy's name that he interviewed, but it's the guy that said that he had homosexual sex with Obama.
That I think Tucker hurt his brand badly with that.
I don't think he did. I watched the interview, and it wasn't about this whole thing about what they did and everything like that. And listening to this guy's story sounded very believable. Lots of detail that he had in there that it just didn't come off as a liar. But the point wasn't this disgusting thing happened or anything like that. It wasn't trying to denigrate homosexual activity or anything. That wasn't what it was about. It was about the fact that the press didn't do their job, and they didn't actually cover what was happening in the background of a person that came out of nowhere to become the president. We had absolutely no background on Barack Obama. We didn't know him. And the press was told, this is what came out in the interview. The press was told that if they decided to run with this story, that they would be locked out of the Obama campaign. That's how they were able to cause this story to go away, because everybody wanted to be a part of the first potential black presidential campaign. And so they said, if you run with this, but see, this is the problem, that the press is supposed to run interference for us and show us what kind of people that we're actually going to be electing and what their character is. Now, I mean, if that would have been exposed, I think today, if something like that were exposed, it probably would be a non-issue. But this is something that we need to understand who we're electing here. We need to understand their character. We need to have the story before we go to the place.
Let me play devil's advocate on that, because Tucker's taken a lot of heat for that, because the guy, I forget that guy's name, but
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But he's got no credibility whatsoever. His whole life, he's done nothing but cons. So, and done a lot of time for it. So
now that's interesting.
Wait a minute. So maybe those years ago, the press did their job and looked at this guy and his story and said, dude, you're a con man.
They didn't, though. That's what came out in this interview, because you have to listen to it, because it's actually really good. The fact is that his criminal experience was between 1984 and 1986. And that's it. He doesn't have any criminal record outside of that. He doesn't have any con record or anything like that. He was smeared by the press to sideline him as illegitimate. That's what the press machine does to people that they want to get rid of.
That too.
And so they made it seem like he had this huge criminal, like he was just a criminal con man. And that's what they did to him, but he wasn't. And the guy had absolutely no win in coming forward with this information whatsoever. It wasn't like he was going to get paid for it or anything like that. It's just a very interesting story. Now, I don't know if I 100% believe that story or not, but my problem is this, is the press doesn't do their job of covering what we're doing. We had the same thing happen with Joe Biden and this laptop thing happened right before the election. And our intelligence agencies swooped in and delegitimized that whole thing and hid that from, and they they put the kibosh on the whole thing. They flim-flammed everybody on that whole thing. Now we know it belongs to him, but this is the point. The press stayed away from that, and they reported what the line was, and that's not what they're supposed to do.
Well, I totally agree with
Our
that.
First Amendment protection comes from the press doing their job, and they really need to do their job, and especially in this upcoming election. We really need to know on the Republican and the Democrat side. The wolf in sheep's clothing, it doesn't matter what party they're in. They're in both parties. They're in all parties. We have to watch out. We can't trust. We have to do our due diligence here and make sure that we have statesmen, not politicians, in office that care about our country, not just for themselves.
Right. Well, I think that's what is going on with the Trump phenomena is his popularity continues to grow and grow with each indictment and each act. I mean, God, I say all the time, I'm not a fan of Trump's, but now it's becoming crystal clear that the deep state is both terrified of him and threatened, very, very, very threatened by him. And not having that power. So when you see that they're trying to anoint once again Biden, who we all know is not running the country whatsoever,
right.
that they're doing it themselves. It's like this conspiracy underlying all of our government, and Trump will come in and mess that all up, cause all that disruption. It just makes it more obvious with every impeachment and every indictment and all of our taxpayer money going after him. I just don't know what else to say about that.
Well, it does. It's interesting because the polls are pretty clear right now on the fact that the people are not fooled by what's going on here. There's let me just pull this up, and it's on all sides. People are starting to figure out what's going on here. Here's an article. Majority of Americans believe Joe Biden was involved in his son's business dealings. Even and this is, I think,
that's obvious.
61% of Americans say that Joe Biden was involved in hundreds, including 64% of independents. And as you and I have talked about, they're the ones that are going to decide the election. So, I mean, Biden's stuck at 69% approval. It's just really, really crazy that that people can see what's going on right now. So I think that we're in for a crazy ride up until the elections, because I think that the powers that be know that if they want to continue on this ride, they're going to have to be very disruptive. And we've seen some of those shenanigans already in the last couple of elections. But I'd say hold on to your hat.
Right. We've talked about it before, and I don't know a good answer here, but as you said, 60% of the independents will actually decide the election. Yeah, unfortunately, those same people have no say in the primaries. So it's almost too late at that point.
Yeah.
And what do we do about that? Because never before have I thought that there was a problem with the way our structure was, our election structure, meaning Republicans should vote for their Republican in the primaries, and Democrats should, frankly, we should have two more parties in between. Maybe that would help. I think that would help a lot. Point being, now they figured out how to weaponize it. So now only registered Republican, it's not now, it's the same. My point being, majority of the country don't want either of these two candidates, something like that, and have no say until it's too late, when it's down to those two final candidates. Then the independents get a say. It's too late at that point. I don't know. What do we do about that?
Well, here's an idea. Why don't we get rid of the party system?
I like that idea. I like that best.
And you and I have talked about this before, is that, there's one president here in our history that didn't have a party. Do you know who it was?
No.
George Washington.
Oh.
George Washington did not believe in the party system.
Okay.
And the reason he didn't believe in it, and unfortunately for him, Thomas Jefferson and Adams believed in a party system, and they became vicious towards each other regarding the party system. But George Washington felt that you start a partisan system, and then then politics in America will only be about the party and not about the United States. And what we've seen is that exact thing happen from the party system. So I would like to see people coming in to win the president of America and try to be our president of America. I don't care about their party anymore. I care about what they care about, the country. And
I like that.
And I think they should all run against each other. And this whole primary where we have one house comes out with this guy and one house, that's not in the Constitution. Okay, so we don't have to do that.
I like what you're saying.
It's not where we need to go, but the party system has blurred the real needs in America, and we see it now. Well, we got to defeat the Republicans, and then everybody that's a Democrat says, "Yeah, I'll only vote for Democrats." And then you go into the
no
polls,
matter who.
Yeah, you go into
Joe
the polls.
Biden.
And you just, okay, D, or R, and you don't even study what these people stand for. It's just, I want the Republicans to win. And that's exactly how this party system has totally screwed us, because the party you're voting and say I vote for all Republicans just because I don't want the Democrats to win, but the Republicans are screwing me. And I don't even realize that they're screwing me because I just want the Democrats to lose. And that's what keeps on happening. And that's how corruption gets hidden. And we're seeing it every day.
The divisiveness gets the flames of divisiveness.
It pits us into two sides. It's that party system. It divides the entire country right there. And the country should be united, not
united we
like
stand, divided we fall. So I want to see if I can find a rebuttal. I want to see if there's a good rebuttal to your argument, because right now, I did not have a real solution to this primary system thing, and you just gave to me a very, very exciting, simple, absolutely simple, easy to implement solution. I got to see if there's the steel man versus the straw man argument.
Well, good luck with that. I bet you there's got to be some kind of argument about that, but I personally,
and it'll come from a partisan point of view for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan, as you know, of George Washington, and for our anniversary, I got this.
Oh, how cool. It's a statue, guys.
It's a statue of George Washington.
Why is it divided in half?
It's a bank.
Oh, it's a bank.
It's a piggy bank.
You gotta be kidding me.
You gotta invest in George Washington here. Not a lot of money. You can't put a lot of money inside of this, so whatever. But
I need to get going, buddy.
Yeah, me too. Actually, this. I had a lot more to cover, but this has been great, and I think we covered some pretty good stuff.
Go ahead if you wanted to throw out a couple things.
Well, there's one that I did want to bring up. Here's one. I just think this is so interesting. Portland City Council votes to ban use of hard drugs in public places. I just think, what? Okay, to send a message to residents and state lawmakers amid a spiraling drug crisis and rampant homelessness, the city council in Portland voted unanimously Wednesday to approve an emergency ordinance banning the use of hard drugs in public. Now, wouldn't you think that that's already something you're not supposed to do?
No, not in Portland. Portland's been spiraling right down the toilet.
That's why this article is so crazy to me.
It is crazy. The
emergency ordinance amends the city code that already prohibits the open consumption of alcohol and marijuana in places like public parks and on sidewalks, to also include hard drugs like heroin, fentanyl, and methamphetamines. But the vote was mostly symbolic because of Measure 110, the ballot initiative approved by voters in 2020 that decriminalized user amounts of street drugs like heroin, fentanyl, and methamphetamines, and that forbids local governments from regulating their use. State lawmakers would have to change the law for Portland to act on its ordinance. Can you believe that? Just a little more. The fact that hard drugs hard drug use was ever decriminalized is bonkers, and Oregonians should be ashamed of themselves for letting it happen. Portland City Council approves emergency ordinance banning public hard drug use. I mean, we talked about last week this drug that's infiltrating our cities called Trank. And I just wanted to piggyback on that story, because you see what's happening in these cities.
So disturbing.
And they've got a problem that they've created themselves that now apparently they can't even get out of.
Right. You know, though, I've heard that I can't remember which country, and I almost wanted to say Poland, but there's a country that has decriminalized most of their drugs, and they say that so it's been like this worldwide experiment, and they say it's gone pretty well. And I've always thought it should be experimented with in a way where it's like, I don't know, maybe it's done by prescription or something, but it's regulated, legal, but regulated, and the tax money from it goes into rehab and education on the problem.
Well, there's something to be said about that. I mean, absolutely.
I would think. But then you look at Portland and you go, well, of course, or look at San Francisco, look at LA. Of course it's off the rails. You know what I mean? I could see both sides of I could see a disaster, or I could see something of a solution coming out of it.
I see that. I see exactly what you're saying, because the criminality of drugs actually causes the cartels to be able to come in and capitalize on that situation and make lots of money and create lots more crime. And then you take a look at things like these methadone clinics for heroin users, and how they've been able to use that to help people to get off of heroin. Although you also see where people just become addicted to methadone, and that's the problem too. I don't know what the answer is here, but it seems to me that they did all of these things at a time when the population was spiraling out of control anyhow, as opposed to doing it when they were really on the rise. And it seemed like the purpose for doing it was never to improve things. It was always to cause things to get worse and worse. I would like to see that study. I think you said it was in Poland or something like that, because I wonder if their cities where they've implemented this were in dire straits before they implemented it, because Portland certainly was, and so was Seattle, and so was Los Angeles, and some of these other towns where they suddenly implement these things where you can use hard drugs, and now you've got zombies out there. I think there's more to the story.
There always is. So even with the example that I used, I don't think it was Portland. I'm sorry, Poland, but I don't know, whatever. It's kind of like we started out the podcast, I was saying about taking the polls. Well, what data? You show a study that says that women are getting paid 83 cents on the dollar compared to men. Well, when you use certain data and keep certain data out of it, and I think the same could certainly be said for however you want to read this study about the drug use, and how are you measuring improvement when they talk about the Norwegian countries being the happiest people on the planet or something, because they're trying to promote the so-called democratic socialism. How are you measuring this happiness? Because they don't look happy. I just watched a movie the other night that was set in Norway, and my God, they all look poverty-stricken and like they're caught in 30, 40 years ago. Wow. Maybe more. I mean,
interesting.
Yeah.
And I took a communication class in college where they went over these studies, these like communication studies and different studies to find out and we were studying the reliability of these studies and the relevancy of the studies. And one of the studies they did was they did a study in New York City, and it was a correlation between rapes in New York City and the consumption of ice cream. And what they came up with was that more ice. I probably brought this up before. When more ice cream was consumed, rapes went up. And so that was the test is more ice cream, rapes. But what it really was in the summer months, rapes happen more, and that's when people eat ice cream more. And so, like, a lot of these studies that we see where they come up with the conclusions don't have any relevance to what they're actually studying, and the reliability of these things aren't real. So when we see, oh, Norway's the happiest, well, when you look into the study, you start to see the real story. And that's the thing, is we hear about all these studies, especially in medicine, where they say, oh, well, this is, it's safe and effective. And then you look at the study and you're like, well, how come all these people died?
Well, first of all, I mean, that everything has come out since COVID on that. Thank God it's come out, but it's not peer reviewed. It's not, say, believe the science all day long. It's not science if it's not peer reviewed. And it's not.
Yeah, it's all about, money, and look how much money these people made over that whole thing. It's terrible. And again, these are all everything we've talked about today, we've talked about as if they're disconnected and they're individual subjects. But isn't it interesting how all these things we talked about today are actually connected?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So the world we live in today, so different from the world we used to live in.
I kind of think it comes back to what we were talking about several minutes ago about, we got to kind of make a war on power. We have to take the power. Like we said it before, we got to get all over this monopoly law that we have and we don't use anymore. And we need,
I agree with that.
Yeah, we just need to break. The founding fathers knew what they were doing.
They really did.
We need to get back to that. And we need to take down this government by 75%. Sure. I think that's a good
that's a good number
for.
Yeah.
And we need to take down these powerful companies and these institutions like the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
We do. We need to depower them. And it needs to eventually come back to self accountability, responsibility.
I think
eventually.
So.
Yeah. We need to take accountability for our votes and being educated enough, demanding more of our educational system, much more.
You said this earlier, and you brought it out, and but I'll just say it succinctly: is that your personal freedoms go hand in hand with personal responsibility, and that's what's lacking today. They're stealing our freedoms, but because we haven't really this whole lack of personal responsibility, or let's give our personal responsibility over to the government.
And there goes our
freedom. That's the trend. Yeah. And so we think that's normal, and we just keep giving away our freedom. But our personal freedom goes hand in hand with personal responsibility. We want to be responsible for ourselves. And if we're responsible for ourselves, we have freedom. But if we give all that away to the government, they control us, they own us. And that's what I'm afraid has happened.
We're pretty much there. Yeah.
Well, I think we still have a chance to get out of it. But we have to get the word out. And like you said, there's 360 million people here. If we all band together and unite, there's nothing anybody can do to us.
Right. Hey, I love the idea of taking down the parties. No parties.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Well, let's go
see if there's a counter argument to that. I'm going to keep
we can bring that up on our next show.
Yeah, I think that's
it's a great subject, actually.
I do too. All right, buddy. Well, have a good weekend. Yeah,
you too.
I really appreciate your time. You as well. And I want to tell you guys, I always forget to say this anymore. Go to over50startingover.com and sign up. Get this dropped to your email box as it happens. And if you like the show, if you're a fan of the show, please do me one big giant favor. Go to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. That way we can reach more people. Would really appreciate that. Sign up at YouTube if you want. I'd rather listen to it myself on a podcast, but you wouldn't see Merle's awesome pictures if you just listen to it on the podcast. Check it out at YouTube. All right, man. Have a good weekend. I hope to talk soon.
Yeah, we will.
All right, bye, guys.